Good afternoon, First Presbyterian Church family. I hope this finds you well on Thursday, December 2nd. First, a few administrative details. As you can tell, I don't look the same in this production. I'm actually using my iPhone to record today. My iPad, which is a faithful, wonderful iPad that I got as a gift in 2014, no longer has the capacity, the memory base to record services. I mean, things function, but it's just limited memory space. At the time, it had enormous amount of space because our various apps have become more sophisticated. They take up more space. Something more is needed. And so for now, I'm using my telephone, my phone. I say my telephone, my iPhone. Also, because of the challenge, we are not able to record the worship as we were with my iPad. I'm going to explore and see how we can take the services from the CDs and put them up that way online. Got to figure that one out. In the meantime, if you would like to see a service and you are not getting the CD, please let us know and we'll make sure that you have one. Now, it's December 2nd and your Thursday thought. First, looking at the month of December, it is, of course, the final month of the year. There's still much to be done between now and New Year's, though. It's depending on how you calculate. You want to say it's 30 days away or 29 days away. Depends on how you calculate. It is right around the corner. But between now and then, of course, there's Christmas Eve. There's Christmas. There are the various gatherings that we hold during that time. As I've said from the pulpit, that for me, Thanksgiving is a time to look past. New Year's is a time to look ahead. Christmas, to me, Christmas is all about the present. And so I would encourage you to simply be present at this time. This is not the Christmas that we had last year, or Christmas Advent season we had last year, where we are now in the pandemic. But still, we're in a stage of just the early stages of rebuilding. And it will be a little bit different this year with our celebrations. I'm hoping to have stabilized by Christmas 2022. Nevertheless, make the most of what you have and stay in the present. I also, during this Advent series, I want to summarize some of our popular tales around Christmas. Strictly speaking, these are secular tales. I mean, they're not in Scripture, but they summarize the point. And I want to connect each one in one way, shape, or form to the biblical narrative. And so I want to begin with the gift of the Magi. It is one of my favorites, and I read it or have it read to me every year. Yesterday, actually, while eating lunch, I listened to it on YouTube. A person narrate the story. To summarize, we begin with the young woman, Della, who is managing, she's the lady of the house, of a very small $8 a week, I want to say flat. And she is the tight manager of the money. Her husband's salary has been really cut back and struggling to make ends meet. And she's a tight bargainer, and over time, all she has been able to save is $1.87. And she wants to find a gift. And it references that there are two great treasures that this couple have. For the husband, it is the watch, a very fine, lovely watch that belonged to his father and grandfather. And for her, it was this beautiful hair that she had. She gets the idea, pondering, is I can have my hair, basically selling her hair. Goes to this place, has her hair cut off. She makes a respectable short hair style, but all the long tresses were cut. And sold it for $20. And she buys a beautiful chain for her husband. He comes home, kind of thrown off by looking at her hair, and she shows him what she has. And he also shows what he has. He has gotten her these beautiful, beautiful combs that would be just perfect for her hair. But of course, he says, she sold her hair. It'll grow back, so that part will grow back. Of course, he says that I sold the watch to get the money to buy you the combs. And O. Henry says, here it is, this couple who have sacrificed their most precious gifts for one another, foolish or not. And says that they are the magi, and they are the wisest. They sacrificed what was dear to them for a gift for the other. The story has been retold in numerous places. I remember a little television show. The whole piece was because the members kept quiet about what they were going to get each other for Christmas. There were some duplications, and some great sacrifices are made. And it's a beautiful story as they're told the different sacrifices they made to give gifts to one another at the time. And that theme of just making that sacrifice for the gift has been rewoven into many stories. Well, who were the Magi? They, we believe they were from Persia, probably practitioners of Zoroastrianism, but also people who probably studied the great holy books of that part of the world, of that larger area, and so were aware of the Hebrew Scriptures, at least some of them. At the University of North Carolina, at least up until the 90s, there was a program at the Moorhead Planetarium called the Star of Bethlehem. And I actually took a couple of groups twice. I took people down from Virginia to see the program. And then we ate at one of the local restaurants that had a lot of student tradition. And that they went with the idea that some sort of astronomical phenomena did happen. And that's the assumption. And so based on clues in Scripture, place some dates. Sidebar, you may remember the old story that the monk who calculated the dates for AD, BC got it off by about 4 years. So probably Christ was born in 4 BC. But anyway, historical references are made. Okay, we got a kind of a time frame. And then what astronomical phenomena were there? And again, in Scripture, Jesus has already been born for some time before the Magi arrive. Could be up to 2 years. We, for sake of Christmas pageants, push it together. But these were separate. They were already living in a house by then, and set up in Bethlehem. So that said, block of time phenomena, and a good candidate for what would have been the Star of Bethlehem was that in Leo the lion, and we're going to jump ahead, Lion of Judah, there is the big star Regulus, regal, king, and it's a beautiful bright star. I see it in the morning now with Leo in my morning walks. I see Leo in the sky, and yep, we can always pick out Regulus. So you've got in Regulus, and then Jupiter, and maybe even another planet, but for sure Jupiter was in conjunction with it, very close together. Jupiter, the king of the stars. Okay? All of that together would have, and that's something they noticed. The Hebrew people were not big star watchers. Other people groups were, and this is something they've seen. It's in the sky over there, and in a direction, and we see it every night. And the scriptures, these holy scriptures, this holy tradition of this people we read, and so that is what led them to look for it. So that is the story there. The gifts they give, we assume that there were 3. We just know 3 gifts were given. There could actually have been more in the party, and gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Gold said to represent Christ's role as king. Frankincense used in temple worship, so that would represent him as prophet. And then myrrh as the sacrifice and priest, or you can flip that one around just as easily, depending on how you look at prophet and priest. But these three symbols represent prophet, priest, and king, the great teacher, the great sacrifice, the great king, administrator for the people. These are things that we assign. And over time, I've even begun to say, well, the kings were of three different races, one Caucasian, one East Asian, and one African. One time those were considered the three racial groups of the world, and some even artists will pick one as a young man, one middle-aged, and one of old age, which none of that is historically accurate. But it does show, or attempt to say, how in the wise men coming, it involves people of all ages and races. And I like that thought. I think that's a good theological thought behind it. What we know, or can guess, based on scripture and knowledge of the area, that they were seekers. You can debate, did they become believers, or were they just, we just know that, but they were seekers and willing to make the effort. They looked at the signs and paid attention to the signs, and they gave their gifts in response. At this season, you may be a bit of a seeker. I think we're all to some degree seekers at this time of year. As you seek, maybe the Lord is showing you something in particular. Are we looking for the signs? I encourage you. Maybe that needs to be your prayer. Lord, show me the signs. Let me see the signs that you've placed there to what's going on. And be prepared to respond in whatever way. A gift to give to someone, a gift of yourself, a gift saying in this coming year, spending time doing X or spending time with somebody, or however this leads directed, be prepared to offer yourself one way or the other. Just some thoughts of the gifts of the Magi and the gifts of the Magi. And I look forward to speaking with you next week when we look at another familiar Christmas story and make the biblical connection. Have a good week.